Hey, welcome to Introduction to Nuke. My name is Abhishek and I'll be your instructor. This is the first movie and we'll see the customization of Nuke's interface. Now Nuke is very flexible when it comes to customization. So let's see that in action. Basically, the default layout of Nuke is subdivided in three panes. Right now we are seeing panels. So we have panels. This is the viewer panel, this is the node graph panel, curve editor, properties. So let's close the panels so that we can see the panes. Let's click on this close icon and we just left with the panes. Now I'll drag this properties nodes. Okay, so now you can see that we just have three panes. We have a viewer pane, we have a node graph pane, and we have a properties bin pane. Now anytime you can left mouse click and drag to resize, okay? And you can also split it. So left click, split it either vertical or horizontal. So if I split it vertical and I click on nodes, so you can see that now I have nodes sitting up here. So the customization is very powerful inside of Nuke. Let's see some other things. Let's click on this icon and click on float pane, and you see that now I have a floating pane. Let's close it. By the way, these multi-gray icons are called content menus. Alright, so it has four divisions. The first division is to split the pane either vertically or horizontally. The second division is to modify the pane. So you want to close the pane, you want to float the pane, or you want to close the tab or float the tabs. So this section is just to modify your floats and tabs. The third division is filled with the panels, eventually what we fill in these panes. And the fourth division is the viewer. Alright, so let's see all these things. Once again, I'll split it vertically and I'll drag it. I'll go to pane and nodes. So I have a toolbar up here. Alright, I'll float this pane. Now sometimes, like you can see, it's not working. This is not a permanent thing. It's just a bug. It might go when I restart Nuke, or it might go when I change to the newer version. By the way, I'm using NukeX v2. Okay, so I'll go to float pane. This will give me this floating pane so that I can close it now. And I'll go to new viewer. So you can see that now I have a new viewer. So I can go to this section and I click this content menu and I can drop a node graph. Alright, now you also have options to get tab menus. So let's click on this content menu once again. Notice that this pane is currently filled with node graph. Okay, but if I try to drop another panel, for an instance, let's drop curve editor, you see that I get the curve editor as a tabbed menu. Alright, so you can customize Nuke in a very versatile way. Now once you get a layout which you think might suit your workflow, you can go to layout and save it. I don't recommend you to save the default layout because this is your startup default, but you can do that. If you save this layout as a startup default, this will be your default layout when you start Nuke from the next time. So you can play with the settings. Now Nuke is also very versatile for the short commands or the short key. Notice that if I press C on the keyboard while pointing my mouse to the node graph, anywhere in the node graph, if I press C on the keyboard, I get a color correct node. Also I get this as a floating window because I don't have a properties bin until now. Okay, so if I close this curve editor and drop a properties bin because I'm not doing any animation. So you can see that in the properties I don't have anything. Okay, but if I drop the color correct node once again, that property is filled in my properties bin. Alright, so I pressed C on the keyboard while being in the node graph, and I got this color correct node, which is up here. You can see the shortkey. But if I press C while pointing my mouse to the viewer, it takes me to the orthographic top view of my 3D system. You can see that my top view has also a short command of C. Alright, so Nuke is very versatile for taking the shortkeys. If I press S in the node graph, you see that I get project settings, right? But these project settings are my script project settings. We'll look at that in a later files, in the later movies. But if I press S in the viewer, I get viewer settings. Alright, so you can manage your viewer. You can do a lot of things. Okay, so the point is that sometimes you press P in the viewer and it pauses your viewer and you start to do some modification, but it doesn't changes, and you say why it's not changing. So keep that in mind, that sometimes you accidentally pressed a shortkey while pointing your mouse in a different viewer or different pane, and that doesn't does the job. The whole point is that Nuke is very powerful, very versatile in the shortkeys also. So keep that in mind. In the next file, we'll see some other settings of Nuke. So we have properties settings, we have project settings, we have a lot of settings. So we'll see that in the next files.